Hi, if you enjoy this clip, please visit my YouTube channel, Russ's One Idea Podcast. Peace out.
Let's go back in time a bit. How did you get into Gatecrasher? That was a bit after my time. I was looking. Because I remember hearing something about you being a DJ, and then I look back and it's like you're Gatecrasher. I think Gatecrasher started about 95, 96 or something. And I'd really stopped going clubbing, and I was like a Manchester kid going,
Hacienda.
Banshee. That was my first place, Boardwalk and things like Hacienda. Sometimes, not very often to the house. Probably one of the best nights ever was at the house. It was like one of them mad nights where it's Tuesday night, it's my birthday. Next thing, there's about 30 of us in the club. We're break dancing on the floor, kicking everyone everywhere, and then everyone's off work the next day. You know what I mean? It's just like one of them mad ones. So, but how did you get into all that? Like,
when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a radio presenter. Always, like going to school. My mum used to take us to school, and she'd always have like Chris Evans' breakfast show on Radio 1 on in the morning. So I'd have a bit of tuning on that, and I thought, right, that's what I fancy a bit of that. How do I go about doing it? So for some reason, I blagged my mum and dad to buy me a set of decks because I thought that I could set it up as like a radio studio in my house, which I did, which I ended up doing. So I've got turntables in there, speakers, amps, obviously did their heads in, blasting music out and all this type of stuff. But whilst I was doing that, I bought a proper mixer for it. So I just started teaching myself how to do it. And then when I left school, obviously went to college, and then like mates were wanting 18th birthday parties and all this type of carry on. So I got into it that way. I started doing like mobile DJing, started doing all people's parties and all that type of stuff. And I did all right and thought, this is a bit of me, this. I'm enjoying this. Then a mate of mine set up a bar in town in Blackburn, where I'm from. And he said, you couldn't come down and play like Friday nights or something for us, you know what I mean? We're a bit short. I said, yeah, no worries. So I fell into it that way, really. So I started DJing bars, playing house and various bits of that. And then just grew and grew and grew. And then a lad, again, it's all relationships. The whole game's relationships, isn't it? This guy was in the bar that I was playing at this one night. He came over and he said, listen, man, I've got a bar in Lancaster. I'd love you to come and play some of your stuff up there. Yeah, no worries. So I went up there, played there for about 2 years. That guy then got poached by Gatecrasher.
Okay.
So he went to go and be the manager of Gatecrasher. And obviously, I mean, they had some superstar people playing there, you know what I mean? Like Roger Sanchez and all these types of guys were playing there. But on a Friday night, they needed a resident DJ. So he tapped me up. He said, do you fancy it? Do you fancy coming down and doing some stuff? Boom. So went over there and then just had a whale of a time. But then that was kind of my last foray into club DJing, because I would have been around about 22, 23, 24 when I was at Gatecrasher. And then at 24, I managed to start to make it proper inroads in radio. So it was one of them where you go in, are you staying up all night DJing in really random places in the world, or are you going to concentrate and try and become a radio presenter and actually, you know what I mean, make a bit of a living out of it? So I made a decision just to pack it in and go, right, we're going down the radio route, mate.
So did you used to go clubbing yourself? Did you used to
do
man. Yeah? Where was the best?
So Cream was always mine at that time. Because if you remember late 90s, Creamfields as a festival was just kicking off, wasn't it? Like really late 80s into early 2000s. So me and my mates always used to go to that. Ibiza was always a big thing. Every year I'd be going on holidays to Ibiza, and Ibiza became a bit of a thing for us. But mainly for me then at that time, like early 20s, I was always working. I was lucky enough to, from Wednesday through Sunday, I'd be in a nightclub playing somewhere, you know what I mean? So yeah, going clubbing was always about the holiday to Ibiza or the festival with Creamfields, but being in clubs, bloody hell, man, lived at, from the age of 17 through to 24, I was living in
I've never been to Ibiza. It was like...
You've never been?
No, it started to get big, and I used to spend all my money on the weekend as well. So, my weekend would start on a Thursday and then finish on a Sunday night, but... So it was Rimini when I first started going clubbing. That was all the big place, because it was like about 89 to 92 probably, when I was just missed that summer of love in Manchester, which was meant to be wild, like, But so I got into it around that time, and then started doing other things then, which weren't good for me. and then rehab. So yeah, that was my thing. So I missed Ibiza. Everyone said it was mental. So
it's amazing. Listen, I still go there now. I still holiday there now. Not to the places that I used to go, of course, being a dad now and married and what have you. But it's still just a beautiful, beautiful place. And there's loads of little places that you can end up, little quarries that you can end in. And next thing you know, you're on some beach dancing till whatever time of the day. You know what I mean? Having a right old time of it.
Yeah, a friend of mine, she loves it. She said if you go over the other side of the island, it's super chilled out, super nice. You know what I mean? I've not been. I need to get there.
Get it on your list. Get it on your list. Get it on your list.
Yeah, I've got a few things to tick off, but yeah. So you went from there to DJing on the radio. Where at? Where was your next?
Yeah.
Place?
So
yeah,
no, I wait.
No,
I didn't go. No, I didn't go straight there. So what happened was my local radio station in Preston is called Rock FM. So, or Red Rose. It used to be Red Rose Radio, then it became Rock FM. So obviously I was listening to that locally. And then a mate of mine just tapped me up. He said, listen, they're advertising for people to go and work at Rock FM. And it wasn't a radio presenter's job or anything like that. And I was always that kid when I was younger, especially making tapes at home, sending it off to radio stations, getting nothing back. Loads of people have had an experience like that, no doubt. And I thought, I'm only going to be able to influence this from the inside. I need to get on the inside, and then I can like you said, find out who the boss is and get in his ear and say, listen, man, I'm good enough for the radio. Get me on there, you know what I mean? So that's what I did. I took this job handing out flyers for this radio station. Meanwhile, I was obviously still DJing in Gatecrash and all this type of stuff. But then an opportunity came up. Obviously, I was blagging the boss constantly, just constantly blagging him, putting CDs on his desk saying, please stickers on. He's having none of it. Christmas, New Year comes round. Loads of presenters want time off. And he knew that I was DJing in these nightclubs and stuff like that. And he knew that the biggest night of the year was New Year's Eve, always is. So he came to me and he went, got a job for you. Do you fancy having a go on the radio? I went, yeah, absolutely buzzing for it. And he went, New Year's Day. And I went, oh, mate, don't do this to me. And he went, breakfast, New Year's Day, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like...
Right from the club.
He dropped that on me like probably a week's notice. And I'm due to play Gatecrashing next week, like the biggest night of the year. So I'm like, shit, how do I do this? So what I did, because the way that my Gatecrashing sets would have worked, I'm the resident, so therefore they would have had a massive name on. Let's say it's a Roger Sanchez. I'd come warm up, Sanchez would come and play, I'd finish the night off, and Sanchez might play.
Was it an all-nighter then, or was it?
Yeah, it will have been. It's New Year's, man. At that time, early 2000s, it would have been till 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, yeah? So I blagged one of the other resident DJs, because there were about 4 or 5 of us, to swap sets with me. So I ended up playing earlier on in the night. He played later on in the night, and he was happy with that. It was New Year, so he was up for it anyway. So he played the later shift. I played the earlier shift, which enabled me to leave Sheffield at, let's say, 3 in the morning. So I bombed from Sheffield right back to Preston, did this breakfast show. Thinking about it now, it's probably one of the worst programs I've ever done in my entire life. But off the back of that, I made that debut, and then off the back of it, he gave me an opportunity I think it was in the April of that year. So that's how big of a gap it was. In the April of that year, he said, right, I've got 2 weeks of overnight radio cover. So 2 till 6 in the morning. This lad's going on holiday. Do you want to cover the slot? And I went, oh, I'd love to, absolutely. So I did 2 weeks of overnight radio. And then at the end of the 2 weeks, he said, that lad's not going to come back. It's your shot. It's your show if you want it. And I went, oh my days. So that 2 things happened there. Obviously, it proved to me that I had it, that I was good enough to be a radio presenter, but it also taught me how ruthless that game is.